The massive radiation exposure failed to give him powers. Earlier this week, I finished Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, the first book in the Expanse series, and I've had this one on my TBR forever. I've had The Expanse on my TBR since I started reading again as an adult, and for some reason, I've just kept kicking it down the road. I've kept postponing it. I've kept saying, no, next year I'll read it, next year I'll get into it. But finally, this year was the year I said I'm gonna at least read the first one and see if I like it, because I've heard amazing things. There's a great TV show on, I think, Amazon Prime. I've heard good things about the books, so I've been meaning to read it, and I finally did, and I have to say I am impressed. And it definitely, so far, at least the first book, lives up to the hype, because this was a real treat. I have missed space operas and sci-fis, apparently, because this hooked me right in. James S.A. Corey, I know it's two authors, but I'm just going to refer them as one. They got me right in there. Like, they just got me right in there immediately. The world building here was awesome. The Expanse is set in our solar system a few hundred years in the future, where the United Nations has taken control of Earth. Mars is its own military force, and there are people living in the asteroid belt and on some of the moons of Saturn, maybe also on Uranus too, but I'm not sure about that one. But I know there are at least a few people living on the moons of Saturn. And this is just really good, guys. There are a lot of little details that they throw out throughout this book that really makes this world feel rich just immediately. I am someone who is just a sucker for good world building, especially in space operas. The more details you give me about different planets, their politics, what the history there is, what New York 500 years in the future or whatever looks like versus today, I'm all there for it, right? The fact that, there's these little details of, the world being overpopulated or Mars having its own, like, it's kind of like the main planet now, almost, like Mars is its own power, and, the Belters are seen as this almost other species of humans, because they've been exposed to generations of space and low gravity, and what that would do to the human body is really, really good. Another thing I really liked about this book was the pacing and the plot. The plot here is about two men, Miller and Holden. Miller is a detective. He is trying to track down a missing person, and she is like the daughter of a very famous couple who was like immensely rich or something. They own like part of the moon or something crazy like that. And Holden is the XO of a ship that is blown up, so he has to become captain of another ship and get his crew together and just kind of figure out who blew them up and why they did it, and basically what are the secrets behind all this, because these two plots are connected in some sort of way. I don't want to say how, but they're connected. So the plot here is really solid, and I think the way that it's told throughout, the pacing is really good. I did not find myself bored at all during this entire book, and it's probably like 500 plus pages. I know it's like over 20 hours on audio, so it's not short, but it's not overly long. It's kind of, it's on the chunkier side. But yeah, the pacing is really cool here. I really like the two main characters, Holden and Miller. I felt like they were a really great contrast to one another, because Miller is kind of this, detective who's like an alcoholic, and, like this is his last case and all of that. Whereas Holden is this just like very righteous, morally good person. And I just thought the character writing throughout was really, really solid, both from the main character perspectives and the additional cast and characters. I felt like everybody had a voice here. I thought it was well balanced. I thought that the way we got into everybody's minds and the way it worked really, really well. They do excellent character writing despite only having 2 points of views, which I always find to be really, really hard, is those background characters and how to nail them. But James S.A. Corey absolutely slams it. I also even think that the kind of thematic work here is really good. There's definitely some commentary on colonialism, I would say, to a degree. There's commentary on capitalism and what it really means to be human. There is a degree of racism here, but not in the traditional sense of, it's about, brown people versus white people or anything like that, but just more interplanetary people who live on Earth and on Mars versus outer planetary people who live in the belt, or on the moons like Europa and stuff like that, and what that looks like a few hundred years in the future. Why the belters are seen as less and the inner planets are seen as more, and all those kinds of things. So honestly, James S.A. Corey as a team is just firing on all cylinders for me. I thought it was a really good read. I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed myself. I thought all around the cast was great. I like the world building. I like the action when it happens. The space battles here are really cool. And, it's not like Red Rising or something like that where you're going to see like people being shot at like speed of Jesus, like Mach speed Jesus into another spaceship and just like hacking through them or anything crazy like that. It's much more realistic. It's much more grounded. It's like space combat would actually happen in the future. It's kind of like naval battles here right now, which I really like. I really like the grounded approach. As much as I love really high fantasy science fiction like Red Rising and Sun Eater and Dune, sometimes it's nice to read something a little bit more grounded that you can really picture in your head, based on the science that we have now. So I just thought that the action was really wonderful too. So yeah, this is honestly all around just a really solid first book in a series. I'm going to give it an 8.8 out of 10. I am really excited for Caliban's War. And honestly, if you haven't checked out The Expanse, you really should. It's well worth it.